I remember the day I married Sarah as clearly as I remember the day everything fell apart. She didn't ask me to become a replacement father to Ethan and Madison. I didn't want that role either. They already had a biological father. I only wanted to become someone they could trust. Someone who would stand beside them when life became difficult. For years, I believed actions mattered more than titles. When Ethan needed help with college tuition, I paid it without hesitation. When Madison wanted a newer car because the old one embarrassed her, I signed the loan. Rent, insurance, cell phone plans, streaming subscriptions, family vacations, emergency expenses that somehow appeared every month. My paycheck disappeared before I even had time to enjoy earning it. I never complained. Every payment felt like another brick laid into the foundation of our family. Respect couldn't be purchased, I knew that. But surely years of sacrifice meant something. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. Sarah always thanked me. Her children never did. They accepted everything the way people accept electricity or running water. It was simply there. Reliable. Endless. Invisible. Sometimes Ethan would mention a concert he wanted to attend, and I'd quietly cover the tickets. Madison loved weekend trips with her friends. Somehow my credit card always ended up paying for the hotel. Neither of them asked how many extra hours I worked. Neither of them wondered why I looked exhausted every Friday evening. They only noticed that the money kept coming. I ignored the warning signs because hope is a dangerous thing. Hope convinces you tomorrow will reward today's sacrifice. Then tomorrow arrived. The argument started over something ridiculous. Ethan had left dishes piled in the kitchen again. I simply asked him to clean up after himself. He exploded. "You don't tell me what to do." I stayed calm. "I live here too." His face twisted with contempt I had never seen before. Then he raised his arm and pointed toward the front door. "You're nobody here." The room became perfectly still. "Get out of my house." "Not our house. His house." I looked toward Sarah. She opened her mouth. And closed it again. She said nothing. Madison leaned against the wall with a tiny smile on her face, amused by the entire scene. I walked outside without another word. There was no shouting. No slammed doors. No dramatic speech. Only silence. An hour later I sat inside my truck with my banking app open. One by one, I ended everything. The debit card connected to my account. Cancelled. Automatic phone payments. Cancelled. Car insurance. Cancelled. Streaming services. Cancelled. Rent assistance. Cancelled. Festival tickets I'd promised to buy. Cancelled. Every recurring payment that had quietly drained my account for years disappeared with a few taps on a screen. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply accepting Ethan's definition of reality. If I was nobody, then nobody shouldn't finance their lives. The first few days were almost funny. Nobody called. They assumed I'd cool off. They expected the wallet to return before the man did. A week later my phone finally rang. "Ethan's card isn't working." Sarah sounded confused. "I know. The insurance company says the payment failed." "I know. Madison's phone service stopped." "I know." Long silence. Finally she asked quietly, "Are you going to fix this?" "No." Another silence. "They need help." I answered with the same sentence every single time afterward. "The person you consider your real family can take care of that now." Reality arrived faster than they expected. Their subscriptions disappeared. Bills arrived in their own names. Insurance companies demanded payment. Collection notices started appearing. The biggest shock came when the music festival canceled their reservations after the payment failed. I heard later that both of them had already bragged to friends about VIP passes. Suddenly those friends stopped calling. It's amazing how quickly confidence disappears when someone else isn't paying for it. Sarah begged me to reconsider. "They're immature." "I know." "They spoke in anger." "I know." You know they didn't mean it. I looked at her calmly. They meant it enough to say it. She cried. I didn't. Weeks passed. For the first time in years, my bank account wasn't empty at the end of the month. The strange part wasn't the money. It was the peace. Then one Saturday afternoon there was a knock on my apartment door. Ethan stood outside alone. He looked older. Not because time had passed. Because responsibility had. His shoulders weren't carrying entitlement anymore. They were carrying consequences. I'm sorry. 2 words. Simple. Honest. I treated you like an ATM. He couldn't meet my eyes. I thought you'd always come back because you always did. I waited. I'm ashamed of what I said. Silence settled between us. Finally I nodded. I forgive you. His eyes lifted. But forgiveness isn't the same as returning everything to the way it was. He nodded slowly. I understand. And for the first time, I believed him. We rebuilt our relationship carefully. No allowances. No unlimited credit cards. No automatic payments. If he needed advice, I gave it. If he needed encouragement, I offered it. If he needed money, we talked about responsibility first. Respect finally entered our relationship. Not because it had been purchased. Because it had been earned. Madison took much longer. Sarah eventually admitted that her silence during that argument had hurt me almost as much as Ethan's words. Some wounds close. Others simply stop bleeding. Looking back now, I don't regret canceling a single payment. Money can create comfort. It cannot create gratitude. Generosity can build opportunities. It cannot build character. Respect is never purchased through monthly bank transfers. It's built through mutual appreciation. And once it's gone, no amount of money can buy it back. So tell me honestly, if someone told you that you were nobody in your own family while expecting you to keep paying for everything, would you have stayed? Or would you have walked away too? The first real test came a month later. Ethan called me on a Tuesday evening. His voice was completely different from the one that had ordered me out of the house. Gone was the arrogance, the certainty that I would always solve every problem before it reached him. What remained was hesitation. Can we meet? I agreed without asking why. We sat in a small coffee shop neither of us had ever visited before. It felt appropriate. Neutral ground. Somewhere untouched by years of resentment and false expectations. He arrived 10 minutes early. So did I. For several minutes neither of us spoke. Finally, he broke the silence. I got another job. I nodded. That's good. I'm working evenings after my regular shift. How's that going? He laughed quietly. It hurts. I almost smiled. Working usually does. He looked down at his coffee. I never understood. Understood what? How much everything actually costs. His words hung between us. I thought money just existed. I didn't interrupt. I never wondered why you always looked tired. He rubbed his hands together nervously. Last week I worked 70 hours. I remembered working 80-hour weeks when he was in college. He continued. I paid my own insurance. Another pause. My own phone. He swallowed hard. And my rent. For the first time, he truly understood what every monthly payment represented. Not numbers. Hours. Pieces of someone's life exchanged for comfort they would never enjoy themselves. I owe you an apology. You already apologized. Not really. He looked directly at me. I apologized because I needed something. He wasn't wrong. This time I'm apologizing because I finally understand what I destroyed. I stayed silent. My friends disappeared. That surprised me. The same people who loved coming on trips, who always wanted to ride in the car you helped me buy. He laughed bitterly. They stopped calling once I stopped paying. Funny how quickly convenience disguises itself as friendship. I guess I wasn't the only person using someone. No, I answered quietly. You weren't. He nodded slowly. I deserve that. Across the cafe window, people hurried through the afternoon carrying shopping bags and umbrellas. Everyone seemed busy chasing something. Time. Money. Approval. Second chances. I heard Madison is angry. He sighed. She says you overreacted? And you? I think she hasn't hit bottom yet. His answer lingered in my mind long after he spoke it. Some lessons arrive through conversation. Others only through consequences. Madison still believed someone would rescue her. Sarah had quietly resumed helping with a few expenses using her own salary, stretching every paycheck until almost nothing remained. It wasn't enough. The comfortable life they once considered ordinary had disappeared. Streaming services became luxuries. Weekend trips vanished. Restaurant dinners turned into homemade meals. The expensive music festival became photographs on other people's social media pages. Reality has a strange way of removing illusions. A few days later, Sarah asked if we could have dinner together. Just the two of us. She looked exhausted before the food even arrived. I failed you. Those words surprised me more than anything else she could have said. I should have stopped Ethan that day. I listened. I kept telling myself they would mature. She looked away. But maturity never comes when someone else keeps paying the price. There it was. The truth. Not just about Ethan. About all of us. I thought protecting them meant protecting their feelings. She wiped at her eyes. I didn't realize I was protecting their selfishness. Neither of us spoke for a while. Finally she whispered, "Can you ever forgive me?" I thought carefully before answering. I already have. She looked relieved. But forgiveness doesn't erase memory. She nodded without arguing. I know. For the first time since our marriage began falling apart, we were speaking honestly instead of comfortably. Comfort had nearly destroyed us. Truth, painful as it was, finally gave us something solid to stand on. When dinner ended, Sarah hugged me. It wasn't the embrace of a wife asking everything to return to normal. It was the embrace of someone finally accepting that respect cannot survive where silence protects disrespect. As I watched her walk toward her car, I realized something unexpected. Walking away from endless giving hadn't made me lose my family. It had finally shown each of us who we really were. Several more weeks passed before Madison finally called me. I almost didn't answer. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I no longer rushed to solve every crisis the moment my phone rang. That habit had ruled my life for years, and breaking it required discipline. When I finally picked up, she didn't bother with greetings. My car insurance was cancelled again. It wasn't cancelled again, I replied calmly. It was never restarted. Silence. They're threatening to suspend my registration. I understand. Another silence. Aren't you going to help? I looked through the window of my apartment at the rain sliding down the glass. Why would I? The question caught her off guard. What do you mean? You told me exactly what I was worth. That was Ethan. You smiled. She didn't answer. You heard every word. I didn't think. No. I interrupted gently. You didn't. For several seconds all I heard was her breathing. Then her voice softened. I thought you would always forgive us. I did forgive you. Then why won't you help? Because forgiveness and enabling are different things. The words seemed to land harder than I expected. I've spent years confusing love with unlimited financial support. That mistake belongs to me, not to you. She whispered, Mom says you've changed. I have. You used to say yes. I used to believe saying yes made me valuable. And now? Now I know better. She grew quiet again. When she finally spoke, the confidence I had become so familiar with was gone. I'd been working double shifts. I heard. My feet hurt every night. I remember. I sold some jewelry. I know. And I still can't keep up. Life has a way of presenting invoices that pride cannot pay. I never asked where the money came from. She admitted. No. I never imagined how many hours you worked. No. I just expected everything. The honesty in her voice surprised me. For the first time, she wasn't defending herself. She was describing herself. I was selfish. I closed my eyes. Those 3 words carried more weight than 100 emotional speeches. I won't argue with that. I don't expect you to. Another pause settled between us. I miss having dinner together. So do I. I miss feeling safe. I took a slow breath before answering. Safety built on someone else's sacrifice isn't really safety. She cried quietly. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just enough for me to hear regret replacing entitlement. I don't know how to fix this. You already started. How? By telling the truth. When the call ended, I sat alone for a long time. Years earlier I would have transferred money before hanging up. Now I simply listened. Oddly enough, listening accomplished more than paying ever had. That weekend Sarah visited my apartment. She noticed the smaller place immediately. You sold the house. I did. Do you miss it? I thought carefully. I miss what I hoped it would become. She nodded. I understand. No, I said quietly. I think now you actually do. She smiled sadly. Ethan told me something yesterday. What? He said losing your money wasn't the hardest part. I waited. He said losing your respect hurt much more. I looked away before she could see my expression. For years I believed respect would eventually grow from generosity. Instead, generosity without boundaries had nearly destroyed every relationship under that roof. Only after the money disappeared did honesty finally arrive. Sometimes people don't recognize your value until your absence forces them to calculate it. Not in dollars, but in character. And that calculation changes everything forever. The following Monday, Ethan asked if I would meet him again. This time he didn't choose a coffee shop. He invited me to the small apartment he now shared with a coworker because he could no longer afford a place on his own. I accepted without hesitation. When I arrived, the difference was impossible to ignore. The expensive furniture was gone. The giant television had been sold. The kitchen held only the basics, and every light was switched off except the one above the table. Saving electricity had become part of his routine. I used to leave lights on all day, he admitted with an embarrassed smile. I never even thought about the bill. I know. He laughed quietly. You probably knew everything about me before I knew it myself. I looked around the apartment. No. I only knew what I hoped you would become. Those words stayed in the room for several seconds. He poured 2 cups of coffee. It isn't the expensive kind anymore. It doesn't have to be. He nodded. I finally understand that. We talked for nearly 2 hours. Not once did he ask for money. Instead, he asked questions I had waited years to hear. How did you manage when Mom lost her job? I worked weekends. And when I needed tuition? I picked up night shifts. The vacations? I stopped taking days off for myself. Every answer made him quieter. Finally, he covered his face with both hands. I thought those things just happened. They happened because someone made them happen. I never even said thank you. No. I don't deserve another chance. I considered that carefully. Deserving and earning aren't the same thing. He slowly lowered his hands. You can earn trust back. It just takes longer than losing it. He nodded. I'll keep trying. When I left his apartment, I believed him. The following weekend, Sarah invited both of us for dinner. Madison arrived 20 minutes late. She looked tired in a way expensive makeup couldn't hide. Nobody rushed to fill the silence. Eventually she spoke. I got promoted. Ethan smiled. Congratulations. It comes with more hours. He smiled again. Congratulations anyway. For the first time in years, they were talking like adults instead of competitors fighting over comfort. Dinner was simple. No expensive wine. No elaborate desserts. Just homemade food and quiet conversation. Oddly enough, it felt warmer than the luxurious holidays I had paid for in the past. As we cleared the table together, Madison stopped beside me. I owe you something. I waited. Not money. She looked directly into my eyes. Respect. I didn't answer immediately. I should have defended you that day. Her voice trembled. I laughed because I thought there would never be consequences. She shook her head. I was wrong. I finally spoke. Consequences aren't punishment. She frowned slightly. They're teachers. A tear rolled down her cheek. I've learned. I can see that. She smiled through her tears. I never understood why you kept helping us. Because I loved your mother. And us? I tried to. She accepted the answer without complaint. It wasn't perfect. Neither were we. Before everyone left, Sarah walked me to my car. I almost lost you. Yes. I almost lost both of them too. Maybe. She looked toward the house where Ethan and Madison were washing dishes together. Do you think we'll ever be a family again? I watched them through the kitchen window. Not the family we were pretending to be. And the family we could become? I smiled for the first time in a long while. That depends on whether we keep choosing honesty over comfort. She squeezed my hand. This time neither of us promised that everything would return to normal. Normal had been built on silence, entitlement, and sacrifice. What stood before us now was smaller, humbler, and far less certain. But it was finally real. Sometimes losing the illusion of a perfect family is the only way to build an honest one. And honesty, unlike money, keeps growing only when everyone contributes.